Hey everybody, it's Paige from Salt Lake County Health Promotion Team, and I am coming at you with part 5 of 7 of our brain health workshop. And we're going over how to build cognitive reserve. And today we're going to be talking about stress. And just a little refresher, this is a series. I'm trying to get the rest of these posted on our YouTube channel. So if you haven't gone to our YouTube channel, it's Salt Lake County Aging and Adult Services. And I have an intro video to kind of introduce what I'm talking about. And then 6 additional videos going over the 5 elements that we can do to help improve our cognitive reserve. These videos are 15 to 20 minutes long, really meant to be pretty quick. So I'm going to go over a quick refresher about what cognitive reserve is, and that is kind of like fuel in our gas tank. And the more fuel you have in your gas tank, the longer your car is going to drive. And so cognitive reserve is like fuel in our body. And the more we build that cognitive reserve, especially in our brains, but also in our physical body, the longer our bodies theoretically are going to be healthy and operate in a way that is healthy. Excuse me. So it's not about living longer, it's about living better or more independently, hanging on to the highest level of independence that you can for as long as you can, and then being able to adjust when decline starts to happen. So decline is a natural part of aging. Dementia, Alzheimer's, is not a natural part of aging. We are going to, as we age, see some cognitive decline. That is normal, but it should not affect our activities of daily living. When you start to notice that, you might be getting a little bit of mild cognitive impairment. That's something that you can go to your healthcare provider for diagnosis. And mild cognitive impairment oftentimes does lead to dementia, but there are many factors that can cause MCI, such as medications, stress. So you do definitely want to make sure that your cognitive impairment isn't caused by something else going on in your life. But if it does, we want to keep our brains as healthy as long as we can so that we can either stave off dementia as long as possible or just keep it from happening altogether. So we have, as I mentioned, there are 6 steps that we can take to help build that cognitive reserve, to help keep our brains as healthy as possible for as long as possible. And we're on number 4, even though this is part 5. I know it's very confusing. We're on the 4th one, which is stress. So I've done videos for the exercise, nutrition, and sleep, and hopefully they're all posted on our YouTube channel. And here is the stress one. So we're going to talk about stress. Basically, when we are stressed, whether that be stress because of something good or stress because of something not so good, like trauma or a event in your life that is hard, the death of somebody who you love or diagnosis of a disease, that causes our body to react in a certain way. And one of the big things about stress, well, let me back up a little bit. As I mentioned, there are different kinds of stresses. There are good stresses and there are stresses that are not as good. And the good stresses are maybe you have friends coming in town and you're super excited about them getting there. So you're planning and you're cleaning your house and you're trying to get together all the things that you're going to do. That's stressful. Now that is a positive stress as long as you're not overly anxious about it. But it also is going to dissipate. Once your friends get there, you're going to do all this stuff and that activity is going to be over. Or there's also positive stress like exercise. When we're exercising our body, that is putting our body through stress. And there are systems in our body that need stress. For example, our bones. Our bones need to go through stress, need to go through impact to maintain their strength. Our muscles need to go through overload for them to maintain their strength. That's a positive stress. A negative stress is something, again, that's traumatic. So a car accident, somebody, again, that you love dies. Um, that is kind of a more of a negative stress. And that's one that oftentimes we can find ourselves in a chronic stress situation. So maybe the state of the world is just stressing you out. And every time you watch the news, you become more stressed. And then you watch the news all day. And so you're in a chronic state of stress. Or maybe you tend to err on the side of anxious. I can understand that. I can be anxious myself. And when we're anxious, we're in a state of stress. And that's where a lot of the damage is done to our brains. When we're stressed, and as it says on the slide, stress is uh, stress management can reduce health problems linked to stress, which include cognitive problems and a higher risk for Alzheimer's disease and dementia. So basically, if you're in a chronic state of stress or anxiety, you are more prone to developing cognitive problems and at a higher risk for developing a type of dementia. So be aware of that. And why part of the reason that this is the case is because when we're in a chronic state of stress, our bodies are basically a big hormone. Our bodies operate on hormones. Hormones are released, and then things happen. And it's amazing how much our bodies actually operate on hormones. And when we're in a chronic state of stress, our body reacts to the stress by releasing hormones, and some of them excite our body. So the fight or flight, y'all know this, right? So if you see your dog in the street and you see a car coming and you run to that dog, your body is releasing a whole bunch of adrenaline so that you have that energy to get to your dog before that car hits him. That's a really harsh example. But that would definitely make me have a shot of adrenaline, right, to get out there. And it also releases glucose into the bloodstream so that your brain can be very, very sharp, so that you can notice things and be aware of things. So these hormones are being released and they are affecting our body and our brain. And when we live in a chronic state of stress, we're having high levels of these hormones in our bodies. And our body isn't brain and our body aren't meant to operate in those high levels of stress. We're not supposed to be in fight or flight our entire day. It's hopefully, every once in a while at the most. So again, if you're looking at the news and that's making you have this really anxious feel, you might even notice your heart rate going up when you read certain articles or hear about certain things that happen. That is your body reacting to the stress. And when we live in that fight or flight, other aspects of our body aren't able to operate. So, for example, if I'm constantly anxious, maybe my body doesn't have an opportunity to release the hormones that settles my body down, that helps me go to sleep, that helps me relax. And we need that balance in our bodies and in our brain to minimize chance of damage to our bodies. So one of the ways that we can do this, and I know many of you have heard this, is we need to look at how we can manage our stress. And it's not easy. So for those of you who struggle with it, myself, I'm one of them. It's not easy. It's a practice. It's like yoga, right? You don't get better at yoga unless you practice it. It's like Tai Chi. You don't get better at Tai Chi unless you practice it. It's the same thing with stress management. You have to practice it. So part of that is getting in touch with you and how you react to things, getting in touch with you and maybe some of your habits during the day that are feeding your stress or anxiety. So, for example, if you wake up in the morning and you immediately turn on the TV or look at social media, and you know that's going to get you anxious, well, you do have the power to not turn on that TV or not look at that social media. It might be hard because it's maybe an addiction that you have, but notice these things. Notice if you are contributing to your level of stress. Also, maybe you start to notice thought patterns that you have, the negative self speak that might be in there, awfulizing of situations that haven't become awful yet, right? I think we all have these traits that, unless we start to notice that we have them, we can't change them. So if I'm going to go to a job interview and I'm thinking, oh, I'm just not qualified for this job interview, I'm not going to get it, it's going to be a disaster. I'm not good in stressful situations. I know I'm going to flub these answers. And, if that is my self speak, I need to notice that because that's not helping me out. Right now, I don't have to be like, hey, Paige, you're going to get this job. No problem. You're the best thing ever. But I can say, hey, I am a capable person. I am thoughtful and I am going to do the best that I can. And whatever result happens, I have no control over that. That's going to be a much more positive way to enter that job interview and to keep my body out of a state of high stress. And then, of course, we want to be able to replace negative self speak or patterns in our lives with positive patterns. If you wake up first thing in the morning and you get on social media, maybe you say, look, I'm not going to get on social media until 8 a.m. Let's say you wake up at 6. And between 6 and 8, I'm going to try to exercise. I'm going to try to do something that actually reduces some of those stress hormones and helps me produce hormones in my body and my brain that are positive and protective to my health. And once I turn on the news, I'm going to watch the news once a day. I mean, we used to watch news once in the morning and once at night. That was it, right? Maybe you limit it to that. I'm only going to watch it in these two areas. Or maybe it's somebody that you speak with that causes you a lot of stress, and really saying to yourself, do I need to call that person right now? And noticing how you think and react when you're talking to that person, and deciding how you might be able to change your patterns to reduce your stress. Again, it's not an easy thing. It's so hard that Health Promotion, that's the team that I'm on here at Salt Lake County Aging and Adult Services, we actually have classes to help with this exact thing. So we have a class called Stress Busters. We have a class called Mindful Based Stress Reduction. These are classes that are offered at different senior centers throughout the county, mainly Salt Lake County senior centers. And they're at various times. We don't have any right now that I'm not going to say, because I don't know when you're going to watch this video, but you can always contact me. I put my information at the bottom there and say, hey, I want to know, when are you going to have a stress buster class, or when you have a mindful based stress reduction? And I will shoot you an email back or call you back and let you know. And don't forget, we always have exercise. We have enhanced fitness. We have Walk with Ease. We have the Arthritis Foundation exercise program. And your senior center, the one closest to you, most likely has its own exercise classes, whether it be Tai Chi or yoga or seated yoga, right? There's a dance class. There's all sorts of classes that we offer at the senior center. So remember, we can help you with that. Plus, simply being social can be helpful. Getting around friends, getting out of your house, getting out of your head, that can be very, very helpful. So we're here to help with that stress reduction. But you have to initiate it and you have to practice it. So the next video that I do is going to be about community, which I just kind of touched on. That is going to be the social aspect. That will come out right now it's March of 2025. It'll come out in April of 2025. So look for that. And then we'll also have the last one, which is novelty, and that will be in May of 2025. So once again, thank you for listening. Here's my contact information. Please call, email. I'm happy to start a discussion with you. Thanks.